Hi, welcome back to The Music Virgin. I'm Ed, and although I've been writing and recording original music for over 40 years, I still consider myself a music virgin. All right, today I want to talk about instrumental music, particularly rock music. Been around for as long as rock music has been around. I grew up in the 70s and there was always instrumental music, even on pop radio, like the Ventures and Booker T and the MGs back in the 60s, Jeff Beck and Frank Zappa in the 70s, Van Halen in the 80s, even today, New Master Sounds and Polyphia. Oh, the list goes on and on. All right, I'm excited. This is going to be a two-part series because I want to talk about two musicians that had a huge influence on me. So today, I'm going to talk about Tommy Bolin. There's so much to say about Tommy Bolin. I don't even know if I can fit this all in. His career was short. He died tragically of a drug overdose at age 25. But in his short career, he racked up some great recordings with some really great musicians. By the time he died, he had not yet achieved the recognition that he probably would have achieved. All right, there's just so much to get through. I would suggest that you dive deeper into Tommy Bolin. The first time I heard about him, I was in a local music store in my hometown, Lewistown. The store was Kaufman's Music and Furniture. You could buy guitars, you could buy couches, whatever you need. A friend of mine worked there by the name of Dale Wilburn. Dale was a really good drummer, a pretty good guitar player, and not a bad bass player. Well, one day I was in the store and he put this record on from Tommy Bolin called Teaser. Dale said,
"Don't talk, just listen."
and it was incredible. It was 1975. I was 18 years old. I was just starting to become a pretty good guitar player, but after listening to Tommy, I was going to get a lot better by stealing every lick that he ever played. So I immediately became obsessed. I tracked down every album that he was on. There was a jazz drummer named Billy Cobham who had an album called Spectrum. He played on that. There was a jazz drummer named Alphonse Mouzon. He had an album called Mind Transplant. Tommy played on that. Just ridiculously good jazz rock fusion. Then, Tommy took the job playing guitar for James Gang, replacing Joe Walsh. Two really fine albums with them. Then, surprisingly, he replaced Ritchie Blackmore in Deep Purple for one amazing album called Come Taste the Band. At the same time the Deep Purple album came out, he released a solo album called Teaser. By the way, Deep Purple didn't last very long because of drug use. Tommy Bolin and Glenn Hughes were both into it pretty heavy, and it led to the band's downfall. Then Tommy released his second solo album called Private Eyes. And while touring in support of that album was when he died of a heroin overdose in Miami. Tommy was 25 when he died. I was 19. I was shocked and angry by his death. Most of my playing technique came from listening to Tommy Bolin records. We seemed to have a similar approach. I mean, right from the beginning, I would hear him play, and almost immediately I could understand what he was doing. I mean, there are still a few things that I will never, ever get. His records were mostly rock, jazz, fusion with lyrics, but he always stuck a couple instrumentals in. The song that I want to play for you today is called T-Jam. It's off of my Last Hurrah album. It's probably the most Tommy Bolin influenced instrumental that I've done. The melody comes from an original jam that my band Too Normal did. It was called Garage Jam because that's where it happened, in Johnny X's garage. So I took the melody from Garage Jam and I turned it into a Tommy Bolin instrumental. Let me play a little bit of that for you right now, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more. Yeah, that's my version of Tommy. That song also includes drum loops from professional drummer Matt Chamberlain. I mentioned him before on this channel. He fit in perfectly with Tommy Bolin jam. Tommy Bolin was an innovative guitar player in his time, and almost impossible to imagine what he would have accomplished had he lived. We seem to say that about a lot of musicians who have died. I, for one, have tried to continue in Tommy's style over the years, as well as next week's guitar player. Maybe you've heard of him. His name was Jeff Beck. So thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next week for Jeff Beck. And as always, I'll put a link for the song in the video down below. See you next week.